Hi, my name's Stephanie Seymour. I'm the area coordinator for Operation Christmas Child in Lower Eastern North Carolina. Last year I got to go on a distribution trip to distribute shoeboxes in Tanzania, and I'm going to share a few of my pictures with you today. Go ahead and flip to the next screen. The first picture is just giving you an idea of where we were in Tanzania, Africa, and we were down on the right hand side where you can see the little red star on the coast of the Indian Ocean. Next to that picture is the airplane we were in as we were coming over the continent of Africa, and you can see how dry and kind of just arid it is, and it looked like that for hours, so it was kind of fascinating to watch that outside of our windows. And we flew for hours like that, and we never did see anything green until we got to Tanzania the next day and actually got off the plane. So Africa was very much like that the whole way. The bottom picture is the airplane that we took. We took 3 flights. We went, I went from Newbern to Atlanta, and then we went from Atlanta to the Netherlands, and then we went from there to Africa. And the flight you see there is the one we took from Atlanta to the Netherlands, and I put that in there because I'm a fearful flyer. I don't enjoy going on airplanes at all, and that was the biggest airplane I'd ever flown on. And it was one of those two floor things, and so I was real fascinated with that. And when we got on board, I was nervous, and there was a male flight attendant standing there, and I said, "Wow, this is the biggest plane I've ever been on." And he said, "Yeah," he was real interested, and I said, "It's amazing it stays in the air," and he said, "Yeah, let's hope it does." So that was how I started my trip out. So go ahead and flip to the next slide. That was us when we arrived at the Dar es Salaam International Airport, which was very, very tiny, but it was an international airport. This was 26 hours after we had left Atlanta. So we were pretty tired, so we felt like we looked pretty decent for that amount of flight. But in this picture with me is Lindsay Tunnell. She's my manager. She's a paid staff manager for Operation Christmas Child, and she works in Charlotte, and she and I got to room together and had a really great trip. Go ahead and flip to the next one. Here's just a closer up picture of Africa and where we were. One of the interesting things about the Indian Ocean was we were real excited to see it and kind of put our toes in it. It was really dirty and full of a lot of trash, and we were kind of surprised by that. And it was a good reminder to us that when we pack our shoeboxes, we should take everything we can out of the wrapping and put it in the box without all of the boxes and plastic and everything, because a lot of these places, they don't have the trash organization and the system that we do to pick everything up. So we can save them that by taking it out and throwing it away here. So anyway, go ahead and flip to the next slide. The funny story, I just included the suitcase picture because we were allowed to bring our own shoeboxes and extra goodies and things. We were allowed to bring things that you can't put in a shoebox, like bubbles, chocolate, and things like that. So my husband got a kick out of it because my little suitcase was my clothes and my big suitcase was my shoeboxes and my extra toys, which I did get rid of all of because it was easy to give them all away. When we got there, we divided into 3 teams, and that's just my little name tag at the top, but we were the yellow team, and we had that yellow bus, and so there were about 13 of us on our team, and there were 2 other teams that went along with us, and so we split out amongst the different churches. Go ahead and flip to the next one. So while we were there, we did 5 distributions in a week. Our group saw about 1,000 children, and they gave away about 1,000 shoeboxes, and we saw a gospel presentation during each shoebox distribution. So they have a pastor there who will share the story of Jesus with the kids, and that was really fun for all of us. They translated it into English so we could listen as well. So that was really neat for us, and the pastors were so entertaining that the kids were really enthralled and really paid good attention. So go ahead and flip to the next slide. The first church that we were at was the largest church in Tanzania, and it was the Lutheran church. And it was neat because when we got there, all of our shoeboxes were there arranged for us in the front in those cartons you see. And so we really just had to have fun handing them out. We didn't have to do a lot of the work, which was really neat. That's the national leadership team. So the counterparts of our volunteer team, that's what they're doing in the other countries. They're taking care of all the logistics for us. And so we got there and the boxes were all set up for us and ready to distribute. Go ahead and flip to the next one. So in addition to distributing the shoeboxes, each of the kids get that little booklet, which is called The Greatest Gift, and it's the story of Jesus. And that kind of goes along hand in hand with the gospel presentation that they hear that day. And it's in their own language, and so that's in Swahili. And so they all get to take that home. And the ministry estimates that every child that gets a shoebox and takes that home, that will impact 9 people, because he or she will show that to his family or his neighbors, grandparents, friends, whatever. And so they're all going to get to take advantage of that booklet and to read through it. So it's really kind of what we all call God math, the way the shoebox multiplies. So, and the other picture there is just the kids. It took us a little while to kind of warm them up, but once we did, they had a lot of fun. And the little girl on the bottom got a shoebox that had a little stuffed animal in it that kind of matched her dress, and I just thought she was really cute. But in addition, she had a letter in her shoebox that had the address of the person who sent it. And so I was able to take a picture of the letter and send pictures of her with her shoebox to the lady, I think it was in Wisconsin, that sent it to her, because I just thought that would be kind of neat to be able to see the child that got your box. So go ahead and flip to the next slide. Those are all the little girls that were waiting to open your box. When you get there and you distribute them, everybody waits until we count down and they all open together. And they were very patient, and they all come in their very best clothes. No matter how poor they are, they dress up and put on their best things, so it's really sweet. Go ahead and flip. That first picture just shows a bunch of the kids coming to the distribution and real excited. And then the little girl on the top, she was so excited to get her Minion shirt. And we were fascinated by how much they knew about American culture. And they knew about Spider-Man and Superman and Minions and things like that. So that was really, really kind of fun to see how excited they got about that. I included the bottom picture because I didn't know I had caught this until I went home later and went through my pictures, because I took about 1,000 pictures. But if you notice, the little girl in the middle has a humongous box, and the little girl on the left-hand side is kind of staring at her box like, whoa, that box is twice as big as mine. And I just happened to catch her at the right time. And so I include that picture just to remind people to try and pack the boxes that are the red and green shoebox size that Samaritan's Purse puts out, or something similar. And you can even use the plastic ones, but just try to make them that size for several reasons. One, the ministry really suggests it because we can fit more boxes in the cartons if we have them that size, and they fit in there like puzzle pieces, and we can get more per carton. And also the size of that shoebox, it's so big you could fill 2 shoeboxes and bless 2 children with the same amount of stuff almost. So we really encourage that. And then also, you're not going to get this happening where the one kid is looking at the picture or the child's box and thinking, well, wait, I didn't get something that big. So because kids are the same no matter where they are in the world, they're kind of wondering, well, wait a minute. So I really encourage you to pick a smaller size shoebox, and you can stuff it full, and you'd be amazed what you can get in there if you just take all the packaging off and wrap everything, roll everything up and everything. So go ahead and flip to the next one. Okay, so the second day we were there, after our first day of distributions, we got to go to the Greatest Journey lesson, which is, if you haven't heard about it, the Grace Journey is the discipleship program that the ministry follows up with the shoebox. So if a child gets a shoebox, they're allowed to come back to the church that they got the box at and go to a 12-week discipleship class. And a lot of the kids do it, and it was really neat. So we got to watch, and I was in the 9 to 11-year-old class. The whole thing was in Swahili, so of course we weren't understanding what was going on, but it was really neat to see how engaged the kids were with the teacher. And it was a good hour and 15-minute class, and they stayed really involved, so that was neat. Go ahead and flip to the next picture. So the day that we were there were 105 children at the church. It was a Saturday, and they had 4 classes going, 4 different age groups. And so we were in, like I said, we were in that middle age group, and there were about 20 kids in my class. The little kids that were with me right there, this was afterwards, and they all want to take pictures with you. These boys were all Muslim boys, and they had all received shoe boxes, and then their parents allowed them to come back and do the Grace Journey, which I thought was really neat, because a lot of times the Muslim parents won't let their children come and learn about Jesus. So it was really cool. Go ahead and flip to the next one. The teacher that was doing this class was 22 years old, and she kept these kids in line. She was, what we were told by the interpreter was she was a teacher, And so she would even correct their grammar if it wasn't good. So it was kind of funny to watch her. And then that little girl in the top corner, she was kind of keeping an eye on me the whole time. I thought she was really cute. And so I kept trying to snap her picture. And then you can see at the bottom that when they get done with their lesson, then they get to work in their workbooks and fill that out. So that's really neat. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so then we went straight from that church about 2 miles to the second distribution. And this neighborhood was largely Muslim neighborhood, and the church had started as a house church in the early 90s. And the pastor told us through our interpreter that this was a very large Muslim area, and when they started their church, they would come and tear it down when they started building their building, and then they would start building it again, and then the people would come tear it down. And he said they even had gone to the police and asked for some help, but the police chief was Muslim and he didn't really work too hard to take care of their buildings. So eventually he said that their congregation took turns staying there overnight until the building could start being more finished. And then finally the people let them be. And now they kind of minister in the area, and he said that they have a pretty good relationship with the community. So that was really neat. But this picture is just the kids waiting for everybody to show up for the distribution and get settled. So go ahead and flip to the next one. The little girl on the left with me is the little girl I gave my shoebox to. I was able to pack 2 shoeboxes in my suitcase, and all my team here in North Carolina, they all donated items to put in the shoebox so that they could all see where their stuff went. So it was kind of neat for me to find a little girl and be able to give her that shoebox. And the doll even was knitted by a lady online that follows my shoebox shoppers page. And she and I have gotten to be friends, and she asked if she could include that. So it was really kind of neat. Things came from all over. The little boy in the top corner was one of my favorite guys that I met. He came up to me that day after the distribution. When they've opened everything up, then they want to show it to you or ask you how to use it or whatever. Well, he came up to me and he had a yo-yo, and he didn't know what to do with it. He didn't know what it was. And I'm terrible at yo-yos, so I was like, oh boy, you should have picked somebody else. But I took the yo-yo and I made it go up and down a couple times, and the light bulb came on, and you could tell he was getting it. So then he took it and he started to make it go up and down a couple of times, and then it broke in half. And so I share that story just to let people know that you want to make sure that whatever you put in the box is quality. It doesn't have to cost a lot, but you just want to make sure it's not really junky, because these kids sometimes have never received a gift before, so you really want it to be something that they can keep for a while. And the little boy on the bottom, I always include his picture just to let you know he's holding up a picture of the person that sent his box to him. And really and truly, one of the things that I saw that the kids enjoyed the most with their shoeboxes were letters and pictures from you. So I always tell people, put a picture in there and put a letter with your address or your email or something, and sometimes you might get something back. I tend to get a couple every year, and it's really neat to hear back from them, and 1 or 2 you might even continue having an email relationship with, so it's kind of neat. Go ahead and flip to the next slide. So the next day was Sunday. We took that day off and we went to a local church, and that was really neat to worship in a local church. And then we spent the afternoon at a little market. And so we started fresh on Monday with another distribution. And this church that we were at was very, the pastor explained it, that the neighborhood was very, very poor, and the kids kind of were a little neglected and didn't get a lot of attention at home. And I really could tell when I started hanging out with these 2 little girls in the picture with me, and they kind of latched onto me for the whole distribution. One was usually on one side and one was on the other, and it was so hot, and they wanted to sit on your lap and pet your hair and all that kind of stuff, but they just didn't want to let us go. And it was really sweet, but it was really sad too, because you realize they probably just didn't get a lot of attention at home. Go ahead and flip to the next slide. I just liked the picture of that little kid as he was leaving. He was so excited about his shoebox, and it was neat. Everybody really does put the boxes on their head and carry them like that, so it was really cool. The top picture are the 2 pastors that were doing the gospel presentation, and they went with us all week, and it was really neat. The kids were very engrossed, and they had little flyers like you can see him holding up so that he could show pictures and that would go along with his story. And it really was neat to see how engrossed the kids were. And then I just love these 2 little guys on the bottom, because they sat there for about 20 minutes they were in the first row and we distributed their boxes, and then we went back to the back of the church and they sat there so patiently waiting to open up their boxes, and I just thought they were precious. Go ahead and flip to the next one. That little girl I really thought was cute. Most of the children don't have any hair, they shave their heads. And so her hair fascinated me because I thought, how in the world did her mother do that with all those little tiny rubber bands? But she was real sweet, and I got to sit with her for a little while. And then the top picture, that's Godwin and his mom and sister, and his mom is one of the Sunday school teachers there. And I was able to give him my older boy box that had a lot of things for a 10 to 14-year-old, and it had a soccer ball and some tools and things, and he was so thankful for it. And he told me that when he was older, he was going to be a pastor, and that he would take some of the things that were in his box while he was young and use them to share with people and just to be able to bless other people. So I was just really impressed with him. And the bottom picture just shows the kids. A lot of these kids have never had books of their own, so they're really excited to get their little greatest gift book, and they were showing it to us as we were standing up front. So go ahead and flip on to the next one. Okay, so then that afternoon, we went to this Jesus Discipleship Center, and this was the distribution that messed with me the most, just because of how poor this church was and this neighborhood was. That picture was actually their church. There was a little tiny area that had like a tile floor. The rest of it was dirt. They're sitting on a tarp that they had put on the floor that covered up the dirt. And this was about 2/3 full. The kids just kept coming and coming. The pastor was a really sweet man, and he was so excited. He had invited about 150 kids to come. And in the end, we had 225. We had one box left over, which was very good, because we would have really been upset if we didn't have enough shoe boxes. Both of the other teams that we took with us had distributions where they had run out of shoe boxes. So it was part of the reason why I'm so passionate about making sure people pack and pack, because there really are kids that might not get one. And it's another reason why I want the boxes to be small so we can fit more in the cartons. And but anyway, this church was these kids were amazing. As they were coming in, we were able to play games and sing songs and do Ring Around the Rosie and stuff like that. And you'll notice there's a little boy in the middle of the picture with a green shirt with some stripes on it. And we all noticed him right away because he didn't interact with anyone, and he didn't play the games or sing the songs. He just sat there. And so of course, a bunch of moms in our group, we all went with our interpreter to the pastor to find out about him. And the pastor told the interpreter that he was homeless and he lived outside of the church and he had no parents, and that the church did what they could to help him, but they don't have what we have here. They don't have social services and things like that, or just the fact that most of us in the U.S. would take him home with us. They don't have that, so they don't have money to take care of themselves. So he really touched us, and the really neat thing about how God works is you can tell from looking at him, his shirt's ripped, and he just looks kind of tattered. And in his shoebox, he had a shirt and a pair of shorts and a pair of flip-flops, and they all fit him. And he had a soccer ball, and he told one of our team members who was sitting with him that it was the first ball he'd ever had. And so he never smiled even after all that, and he still didn't interact, but he held that shoebox up close to him like nobody was going to get near it. And it just touched all of us so much because he was just so sweet and so all alone. And it was just one of the reasons why we do what we do, but it was also just kind of sad to leave and know he was going to still be there. So go ahead and flip to the next slide. There's just a closer up picture that you can kind of see him that day. And the top picture was me with two little Muslim girls, and I sat with them for a while, and my interpreter helped talk with them, and they both told me that they weren't allowed to go to school because girls didn't go to school. And so that made me really sad, just to think that they already have so many strikes against them just being in such a poor area, and then to not have an education. So that made me sad. The bottom picture shows some of the kids. They love to show you their boxes after they get them. And there were several little Muslim girls down there too. So we saw Muslim children at every distribution we were at. So go ahead and flip to the next picture. Okay, so this is what tore me up after the little boy with the green shirt. This tore me up again. Every distribution that we did, when we were done, we would gather with the pastor and we would circle around him, and we had a gift for him, some supplies for their church. and we would pray with him. And on this day, the pastor's wife was there, and that's her. And so we circled around them, and we put our hands on them, and we prayed. And I just happened to be behind her, and so I put my hands on her, and we were praying. And of course, they don't speak English, and we don't speak Swahili, but you know, everybody knew we were praying. And she started to cry and to wail, and she fell down on the floor, and she was crying out to God, and I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of crouched down behind her and put my hand on her and, you know, spoke in English and prayed over her. But it was amazing to me how emotional and how touched she was about these little tiny shoe boxes and what they were going to mean to their ministry. And so when we got all done praying, she went over into the corner where she is in this picture, and she got down on her knees and she put her hands up and she cried out to God over and over again, thanking him for us bringing these boxes. And it was overwhelming to me because I thought, these are just little boxes that sometimes we think are an obligation we have to get done. You know, it's that time of year we have to do their boxes, but for her, they meant everything to them, to the children in this church, to their ministry, how they could work with these families and interact, and it was powerful. And I just looked at her and thought, when are we ever that thankful for something? So it was a very powerful moment, and I sort of felt bad taking the picture, but I wanted to be able to bring it back and to share it with people and say, this is how appreciative the people are for what you do when you pack your boxes. So that's why I brought that picture. Go ahead. So then the next day was happier again. This was the last distribution we did. We left at midnight this night, and this church was really kind of neat. It was very open air, as you can see, and it was pretty new. And in the back you can see there's a little board, and they've got plans up for an actual building that they're raising money for right now. So it's a really growing church, and they reached out to the neighborhood and invited a whole bunch of kids, and quite a few came from a local school, and so you can tell they have little uniforms on. Go ahead and flip to the next slide. Again, there were quite a few Muslim children, and the one that was my very favorite from the day was Daniel, and he's sitting on the top with the flashlight. He was there with his school. That's a little uniform he had on. He was 2 years old. And the teacher came in with a bunch of kids, and so I got him, you know, like she was kind of letting people watch the kids. And so he sat on my lap in the front row and listened to the story, and they did a little skit for us. They put on a skit of the Good Samaritan, and so he sat there for like a half an hour on my lap, and so sweet. And we passed out all the boxes, and he was one of the last ones to get a box. And his box was for a 10 to 14-year-old boy because we ran out of 2 to 4-year-old boy boxes. That's a really needed age group, and we don't always have enough. So thankfully it had a flashlight in it. It was a great box, but it was a great box for a 14-year-old. And so it had big shirt and big pair of socks and school supplies and stuff, but it did have that flashlight. So we put the batteries in it. He was real fascinated with it. And I happened to have some Beanie Babies that I brought along, some little ones. So I gave him a little frog, and we walked all around and took pictures and looked at everybody. And so the little boy on the bottom was showing me his book, his greatest gift book. Go ahead and flip to the next one. And then Matchbox cars were a big deal. So this little guy wanted to make sure that we saw his car in his box, and that comes back into play later. And then candy was a big deal. Unfortunately, this is the last year we can send candy, but the kids really did like it, so I'm kind of going wild with my candy this year. And then another thing that I noticed was the kids liked to take the stickers that you can put in the box, and they take up no room at all, and they're real cheap. And you can put them in the box, and they decorate themselves and each other. So I kind of saw these guys on the side with the stickers on their head. So go ahead and flip on to the next one. The pastor thought it would be a really great idea to get a picture of all of us. It was a beautiful day, and it was a really great, colorful picture, but it really was kind of like herding cats to get everybody in the picture together. But it was one of my favorite pictures in the end, and so our whole team's kind of interspersed in there. It's just hard to see them. Go ahead and flip. So Daniel was a good story. He almost came home with me, and my husband had said, don't bring home any children, but I really almost did bring him home. But after we had walked around and looked at everybody's things, he came back, and that little boy that had the Matchbox car was playing with it, and Daniel wanted it, and so he snatched it out of the little boy's hand. And so then that little boy's crying. And so then I have to take it from Daniel and give it back and explain to this little boy in Swahili, which I don't speak, you can't do that, that's not yours. And so I handed him back his little frog. And I said, here's your little frog. And he got this little mean face going, and he took that frog and he slammed it into the ground and he marched off. And I thought, I'm never gonna see this kid again because he doesn't want anything to do with me. But when we got to our bus, he was in the bus. He had gotten away from his group and he was sitting on the front seat. And so that was him sitting with me on the front seat of the bus. And I really thought I could take you home. But his teacher came and got him. And so when she picked him up, he started to cry. And I had some yogurt raisins in my backpack, my own snack or whatever. So I get the yogurt raisins out and I hand them to him. And I'm like, here you go, honey. And he took those yogurt raisins and he slammed them into the ground. And she carried him off the bus wailing. And he's probably still remembering that mean lady from America that didn't give him anything he wanted. So go ahead and flip to the next one. So that was our last distribution. And then we went back to the hotel and kind of got back together and had a little like decompression time where we talked about our week. And then we headed to the airport and we left about midnight. And since I don't like airplanes, I don't sleep on airplanes, I was awake that whole night because I have to make sure that the pilot's doing what he needs to be doing. So I was awake, and so I was making notes and just thinking about my week and how I could get people to help after what I'd seen. And so one of the first things I thought was we needed more people to pack more boxes. There's so many kids and so many that we haven't reached yet. And so that was my first thought was, okay, we need more boxes. And then I thought, well, we need people to pack quality boxes. They don't want to have junky stuff in them because I saw what happened when stuff breaks right away, and that really is disappointing. And then I thought about the picture of the girl with the huge box, and I thought, well, we need to pack them full, but they need to be regular size boxes. And we need to make sure we include our shipping, because when we do that, then the ministry doesn't have to pay extra for it and take that money from somewhere else. And so I was thinking about all those things, and so I kind of made a little list, and so that's really what I encourage people to do now. And then if this ministry makes you passionate like it does me and so many other people, you can find out more about volunteering year-round. And so that's something I always ask people to at least consider if maybe God's leading them in that direction. And the Grace Journey discipleship class that I showed you pictures of, you can sponsor that. So you can pay $7 a month, kind of like you do with a World Vision child, and you can pay for a child to go through that for $7. So that's something that you can do if you feel passionate about doing something more. And then something that everyone can do is just pray for the ministry and pray for the children that are getting the shoeboxes this year and who got them last year. And in particular, the little boy with the little green shirt. I've handed his picture out to so many people because I want them to remember him and be praying for him, because he's still there, and he learned about Jesus that day, and I'm just hoping that he was touched and that maybe something has changed in his life and he's in a better situation. So that's something that everybody can do, is to pray for the ministry. And I just really thank you for everything that you do, and encourage you just to pack more boxes and to get involved, because what you do really does make a difference, and it really does encourage all these pastors and these ministries all around the world. So I really thank you for everything you do.